This massive $13.3 billion ship is not only the largest aircraft carrier in the United States Navy, but the largest aircraft carrier of any Navy on the planet. It's the Gerald R. Ford class nuclear aircraft carrier, the CVN-78. On any given day, in any of the world's oceans, its crew of 4,500 continuously work under high pressure, organized chaos to do two things and two things perfectly, each and every time. Safely catapult aircraft off the flight deck and stop them from falling into the sea upon their landing. And of these 4,500 crewmen and women, the most important, dangerous jobs relating to aircraft launch are spread across 8 different teams with 5 subgroups within them, and some 35 different job types on the flight deck alone. On one of these chaotic days, during December of 2020, just 3 years shy of the CVN-78's commission date, and only 3 years prior to its ultimate deployment in May of 2023, its crew broke a record. 170 launches and 175 arrestments in a single 8.5-hour period of operation. This is truly incredible. But to anyone except flight deck crews and naval pilots, this accomplishment might sound procedural, which it largely is. That level of efficiency demands it. However, let's give these figures proper, relatable context. This means the ship's 8.5-hour launch and landing volume of 345 is roughly 56.24% of 2023's 8.5-hour operating capacity, both domestic and international, of the second largest airport on Earth, Denver International Airport. More impressively though, it beat 2023's 8.5-hour average aircraft volume of New York's LaGuardia Airport by 4.19, meaning that the CVN-78 during peak operation can handle 1.22% more launches and landings than one of New York City's largest airports. Yet these figures only account for flight volume. It's also a matter of area. While a clear underdog relative to Denver's flight volume, the Gerald R. Ford only has a 5-acre flight deck, which is incredibly small compared to the 3,000 acres required by the FAA to qualify for international air service, which DIA and LGA both do. For instance, DIA has an area of core aviation land that's some 18,000 acres, 3,600 times the size of the CVN-78's flight deck. On a per-acre basis, this single aircraft carrier trumps what the largest airport in the Western Hemisphere can service. And regardless of LaGuardia's acreage, the Gerald R. Ford class nuclear aircraft carrier still beats their 2023 average, putting the CVN-78 squarely within the Department of Transportation's classification of a major airport in the United States, all of which is made possible by procedures that look like pure, unorganized mayhem. Normally, the CVN-78 is required to sustain 160 aircraft launches per 12-hour span, complemented by a surge capacity of 270 during a 24-hour period. Over a 12-hour span, the ship must be able to launch an average of 13.3 aircraft per hour, or a fighter jet every 4.5 minutes. The record, however, which breaks down to 20 aircraft per hour, or a launch every 3 minutes, illustrates that the ship can operate at 5.88% above its sustained launch requirement, and at a higher SGR given the 29.16 tighter time constraint. This means the record-breaking Sortie generation rate, or the rate at which a carrier can catapult jets off its bow, adjusting for time, was 33.4% higher than what's expected. For further context, by this point in the video, the CVN-78 would have already launched an aircraft and would be about 1/6 of the way to launching its second. So, the record-breaking SGR on that December day in 2020 is a byproduct of the procedural intensity with which this highly systematized dance between man and machine operates. But the Ford-class carrier does have one major mechanical advantage related to aircraft launch: the type of catapult system it uses. Compared to its predecessor, the Nimitz-class CVN-68, which utilizes a less efficient steam-powered catapult mechanism, the CVN-78 is equipped with the first state-of-the-art electromagnetic-powered aircraft launch system, or EMALS. The EMALS gives the flight deck crew an increase in energy capacity by providing these teams with a larger launch envelope, or the variables necessary to calculate for the safe launch of an aircraft. These variables are the catapult's maximum capacity, the aircraft's weight, the longitudinal acceleration limit of the aircraft, the structural tow force limit of the aircraft, and the minimum airspeed required by the aircraft. It's all done impressively well. Just look at these efficiency gains. The sustained SGR of the Ford-class CVN-78 is 25% higher due to its EMALS catapult compared to that of the Nimitz-class CVN-68 steam-powered launch system. and during surge scenarios, it's still 12% higher than the Nimitz class. Needless to say, whether aircraft are launched via a steam-powered catapult on a Kitty Hawk class, or an Enterprise class, or a John F. Kennedy class, or a Nimitz class, or from an EMALS on a Ford-class carrier, the successful launch of aircraft like the F-35C Lightning II, FA-18EF Super Hornet, E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, EA-18G Growler electronic attack aircraft are reliant on the highly specialized teams of crewmen and women that are masters of the flight deck's launching mechanisms. They're the aviation bosun mates. To better understand their role in enabling a successful aircraft launch, we must first simplify the Gerald R. Ford's flight deck. On the CVN-78, there are two main groups that enable a carrier's primary function. Those that work from the ship's island, or the ship's nerve center, which also includes the flight deck control center. Then, there are those that work the flight deck. On the CVN-78, these posts are here and here. The group working from the island is composed of the air officer, or the air boss, and the assistant air officer, or the mini boss. The air officer is responsible for everything that the second group does on the flight deck, while the assistant air officer ensures that the air boss's orders are carried out. In order for the island's commands to be carried out, the second group must operate in concert with one another. It's a top-down, bottom-up system of organization, with an array of color-coded team types denoting their specific function. To make things easier, we'll subdivide these teams into 3 divisions: A, B, and C. Division C does the necessary, less exciting grunt work. They wear the blue and brown jerseys. Division B is responsible for flight deck safety and fires. They wear the white and red jerseys respectively. Division A comprises the various teams of ABs, or aviation bosun mates. They wear the yellow jerseys, green jerseys, and purple jerseys. Often, those wearing blue jerseys are training up to join the ABs. There are 2 teams within this color set: the aircraft handling and chalk crewmen and the elevator operators, or EOs. The aircraft handlers secure aircraft with wheel chocks and chains and move the aircraft. They also operate the flight deck's handling equipment, or the tractors and aircraft starting units. The EOs move aircraft from the hangar deck for staging via the CVN-78's aircraft elevator. The team of brown jerseys ensure each aircraft of their squadron is inspected and serviced. This happens prior to each launch and after each arrestment. The white jerseys have 5 teams within its color set: the safety officer and their crew, the air transport officer, or ATO, the landing signal officer, or LSO, the squadron plane inspectors, or the troubleshooters, and the flight deck's medical team. The safety officer and crew make sure there's compliance with operational procedures. The ATO coordinates all loading, unloading, and movement of all air cargo and passengers. The LSO ensures each aircraft remains within safe perimeters during landing approach via radio communications and light signals. The troubleshooters, like the brown jerseys, are responsible for the inspection of aircraft. Lastly, the medical team provides immediate treatment to any casualties on the flight deck. The red jerseys have 2 teams within its color set, and 2 subsets within its second team. There's the crash and salvage team, and the ordnance officer. This officer is in charge of the second team's 2 subsets: the CAG arm and D-arm team, made up of ordnance handlers, and the explosive ordnance disposal officer and their crew. The crash and salvage team is effectively the fire department. They fight aircraft fires and rescue personnel during emergencies. The ordnance officer is the first of the second team's subsets. They oversee all movement, handling, and loading of aircraft ordnances. The CAG arm and D-arm team arm and D-arm weapons from aircraft. These teams include the ordnance handlers, or the BB stackers, who move, load, and unload ordnances. The second subset within the second team includes the explosive ordnance disposal officer and their crew. They disarm and neutralize defective ordnance. Then there are the aviation bosun mates: the purple jerseys, the green jerseys, and the yellow jerseys. The purple jerseys, or the ABFs, the aviation fuel crews, or the grapes, aren't subdivided within their crews. They fuel and defuel aircraft from fueling stations around the flight and hangar deck. They also fill up the blue team and red team's vehicles. Additionally, they're responsible for applying lubricating oil to the catapults. The green jerseys, or the ABEs, are the equipment crews. They're subdivided into 3 main groups: the catapult crew, the arresting crew, and the other crew. The other crew include 3 subsets: photographers, helicopter LSE or landing signal enlisted men, and a 3rd aircraft maintenance crew. The photographers don't need an explanation. They're there for media, marketing, and news. The helicopter LSE directs helicopters during takeoff and landing, while the aircraft maintenance crew maintains aircraft. The ABE's arresting crew subdivides into 4 subteams. There's the TPO, the topside petty officer, there are the deck checkers, the deck edge operator, and the hook runners. The TPO supervises the arresting gear topside crew and works underneath the arresting gear officer of the yellow jerseys. The TPO ensures that the topside's arresting gear is in working order. The deck checkers ensure the deck is clear of foreign object debris, or FOD, which include both crew and inanimate objects. This is done before each arrestment, even after all teams perform their walkdown prior to the day's operations. Walkdowns are a visual check of the flight deck. The entire flight deck crew looks for objects that could potentially be ingested by an aircraft or blown at crew from a jet engine blast. Their final responsibility is to ensure the wire is properly staged for aircraft recovery. Once an aircraft has been recovered, the deck edge operator retracts the arresting gear. Lastly, hook runners make sure the cross-deck pendants, which are flexible steel cables that span the landing area and engage the arresting hook on a landing aircraft, are disengaged from the aircraft's tail hook. The same process is used for the purchase cable, which is a wire rope that connects to each end of the arresting wire. When the landing area is clear, they give the retract signal to the deck edge operator. The ABE's catapult crew subdivides into 6 subteams. The catapult safety observer, the topside safety petty officer, or TSPO, the holdback personnel, the center deck operator, the jet blast deflector operator, and the weightboard operator. The catapult safety observer works directly underneath the launching officer of the yellow jerseys. The catapult safety observer checks that launch procedures and precautions are followed. The TSPO ensures that the holdbacks and repeatable release assemblies are installed, and that the aircraft's launch bar is engaged. The TSPO is the last of all members to exit from underneath the aircraft before launch. The holdbacks, repeatable release assemblies, tension rings, and bars are installed by the holdback personnel. They work underneath the TSPO. The center deck operator relays information relating to launch envelope, aircraft type, gross weight, side number, and the catapult's capacity to the catapult's control, or the bubble. The jet blast operator raises or lowers the jet blast deflectors. JBDs prevent aircraft jet blasts from hitting crew or other aircraft and vehicles located behind or aft the launching area. Lastly, the weightboard operator verifies the aircraft's weight prior to launch. The yellow jerseys, or the ABHs, are the handling crews. They're subdivided into 6 subteams: the aircraft handling officer, or the ACHO, or handler, the flight deck officer, the catapult officer, or the shooter, the aircraft crash and salvage officer, or the air bosun, the arresting gear officer, or the AGO, also called the hook, and the plane directors. The ACHO works directly underneath the air boss in the island, supervising all embarked aircraft. The flight deck officer is responsible for efficient and safe operations, the readiness of aircraft handling support equipment, and the maintenance and condition of the flight deck. The shooter is responsible to the air boss via the handler. They are responsible for the safe launch of all aircraft from the catapult. If everything goes well, the air bosun won't do anything. They supervise the crash and salvage team of the red jerseys. The hook is responsible to the air boss via the handler. They are in charge of the safe and efficient operation of recovery equipment. Lastly, the plane directors provide signals to aircraft's cockpit crews in guiding their movements during launch. Taking into consideration that there are some 34 separate teams of crewmen and women on the flight deck and island combined, while not taking into consideration the various below-deck teams in support of these operations, it's truly astounding that the 5-acre flight deck of the CVN-78 Gerald R nuclear aircraft carrier is pound for pound more capable than some of the largest major airports in the United States. This organized, chaotic dance between man and machine, catapulting aircraft and arresting them on their return, is all made possible by an array of colorful subsets of hyper-specialized teams, the US Navy's aviation bosun mates. It looks like you found this video interesting and entertaining. If you don't want to wait another 2 weeks for my next release, why not learn about how the Army's newest 6.8mm round forced the Pentagon to fund the Next Generation Squad Weapons program, or how the flippers were a critical piece of the air bridge built in western North Carolina after Hurricane Helene destroyed more than 1,000 of the state's roads. Both stories are filled with juicy government data, which gives a full, unbiased perspective. As always, comment, like, and subscribe to help support the content you want more of. Cheers, and thanks for watching.